And Heidi and I made a commitment last year that he was going to be a part of the summit every year. And unfortunately this year, because of back problems, he's going to have surgery, and I've had that, and it's incredible pain. And he was very sad to not be able to come. And I really mean this, if all of you will go on Facebook and shout out to me. Eric Baker. Twitter. Twitter, whatever. I doubt he tweets, but who knows what Eric does. So this year, I connected with Dana and with Eric and asked them to reach out to speakers, and of course Heidi's both is the only trump card, but that's why Heidi asked Annalise to be a speaker, and Eric also did it last year. And what the other thing that was interesting is we asked on Facebook at the end, after something was over, who is your favorite speaker? And we had an amazing group of speakers. And unanimously, Eric was humbled that everybody was, and I think it's a connection to students because he teaches and because of who he is. But we miss him, and he'll be back next year. But last year, he put his list together of speakers that he wanted to consider, and he does it very similar to Annalisa. He does research, he looks, and he sends me all these links, and he said, check it out. And there was one at the top that was separated from all the others, and he says, this guy's got to come, and all the others we need to pick. And he reached out, and the message was, damn. That was all it said. Damn what? He said, damn, Aaron can't come. So he said, well, let's go next year. So Aaron last year was recognized as a young gun, which is anyone under 30 years old and on fire. He has been won many awards, and now I'm very proud to say he did study to come this year, and he's actually speaking twice. So a warm welcome for our friend Aaron.
Thank you, Chris and Heidi and everyone at Creative Summit. I feel like I've been here for a week, but it's only been a day and a half. My name is AaronDuffy. I'm a director, thinker, and maker from Brooklyn, New York. I'm also creative director at a studio called First Ave Machine for a production company. Before I talk about my work and my process and the kind of things we do at First Ave, I thought I would just play a little bit of a quote from an artist and director that inspired me when I was still a student. And I made some subtitles because the accent's a little bit hard to understand. So hopefully you can understand it.
You get credit to get more recognition, get the job basically, and then you spend your time being creative, which is a learning process, and you don't learn very social, and then you get even further from the girl you want to be close. But the point is, you're creative, you become creative because there's other guys out who are like the Tom Cruise, you know? He's not crazy, but he's good looking and he's gonna chat the girl. So you're gonna spend all this time to overcome that and become better than they are and show the girl how great you are. But what you forget is this guy is gonna spend the same amount of time be better at chatting up the girl. So when you come out with your great project and you masterize your art, you are left on your own. So,
That's Michelle Gondry. And what I love about that quote is almost in the same breath he's talking about this problem that he has, this social awkwardness problem. At the same time that he's talking about the source of his creative success. If you know his music videos or his films or anything like that, there's always this character that has this social awkwardness problem. And so what Andre is doing is he's embracing a problem that he has personally and turning it into his work. As artists and designers, we're talked about as problem solvers a lot, and that's true, but I also want to see if we can think about that also as us being problem makers and see if we can figure out what that means. So I call this presentation Running Into Problems. It means two things. It means, yes, you're going to run into problems, but maybe also try running into those problems on purpose. And I'm going to run through eight, I think, different problems that I run into in my own work, and maybe some of those resonate for you as well. Problem number one is pain, and I think that this is probably fairly familiar. Maybe any kind of laborious making process, or sleepless nights on end, or pushing around with a little pixel staring at the screen, teary-eyed. I ran into this problem I felt really early on when I first got into art school. I wasn't sleeping, the work was not good, and I wasn't feeling great about what I was doing. I was thinking about this pain that we put ourselves through as art students so much that it turned into a project in my head, and this is something I come back to a lot. So I thought I'd play a little excerpt from that early piece for you. That's all from my phone. Just started in lots of that right now. And these are the handholds. So you can imagine that this would be a lot easier to fill out.
Better have your toes. Yeah, makes sense. See, this one at the turn. Oh, it is hard.
Alright, so you got yours. I use.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I set out to do this project, I didn't intend to cause myself physical pain. I wasn't thinking about that. I was more thinking about the silhouette of this disabled figure, almost like a supervillain silhouette of a figure that couldn't really do anything for themselves. And the original plan was to be in the blocks for about 48 hours, so over the span of 2 nights, and it was going fine. Then on the second night, I think I slept in the wrong position and the blood wanted to flow into my hands, and it couldn't because there was concrete all around. So 4 hours before I was supposed to finish it, we had to chip it off, which is what we saw at the end. And even though I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing something as stupid as this, it's a project I was going back to, I think, because I embraced the problem I was having and turned it into the work that I was doing, and it's something I come back to a lot. So problem number two is who am I? And this is a problem obviously that comes up at this stage where there's so many options as a student for what you can do. I was really having that problem early on. What do I want to be, a visual communications person? Do I want to be a sculptor? I was having a really hard time with it. And at this time, I was going to study abroad in Florence, like and Lisa was talking about. And so when I got there, I was really trying to figure this out. And I lived near this church called Santa Croce. And I'm not a religious person, so it's not Jesus that helped me figure out what kind of art I wanted to do. But it was what was inside this church that was really important. This is a fresco by Giotto di Bondone. And the inside of Santa Croce is filled with Giotto frescoes about St. Francis and some other things. And I found myself captivated by these paintings in a way that I wasn't sure why. But what I did know is that these frescoes were drawing people to the church. There was something about what Giotto was creating, the storytelling that he was doing, that was making people want to be there. And I started thinking, man, this is kind of like what I want to do. There's something that he's doing that I really like. On top of that, he's basically doing large-scale comic books of the biggest superhero that day. We have Jesus flying in the air with 4 red wings shooting golden lasers at St. Francis, and it's like an epic superhero comic book scene. And I thought what he was doing there was really rad, and to me, at that moment, however you really want to look at it, to me, he was doing advertising at that time, and I thought, if he can do advertising like that for the church, and I really like the work he's doing, then maybe I could feel good doing that as well. Problem number 3 is experience, and I figured out halfway through school that I loved animation, which was great. I needed to get to that point. The problem was that the school did not teach animation, and that had me sort of stressed out. That summer, I went to work in an art gallery, and at the top floor of the art gallery, they taught art classes to students, and there was a teacher for those classes. The only problem was one day, the teacher called in sick and said, students are going to be there in 15 minutes, you have to teach a class, good luck. And I said, teach them what? And the only thing that was in my head at the time was animation. And so if you're an animator, teaching animation to 6 to 8-year-olds in 2 hours doesn't really make any sense. And you'd be right, it was the dumbest thing you could think of. And the kids were pretty stressed out about it. I didn't have good resources to get it done. They didn't understand how this process of layering the papers related to their Saturday morning cartoons. It just didn't make any sense to them, and they just started messing around and pushing around and things like that. And so I said, okay, just look at me and draw this position, this position, this position, and this position. And just do that. And so they listened to me, they started working and started drawing. And I thought the class was just going to be a complete flop. But what I realized the next day when I compiled all the drawings is that they actually did get it. And I actually was really liking what they were able to create. You can see some of them listen to me. And then some of them did other things. But what I realized in that moment was that the problem was not the inexperience of the technique. The problem was that they didn't know, they didn't have any idea what they were supposed to draw. It wasn't a technique problem, it was a subject matter problem. And once I gave them something to think about, they just got to work and they got it. And so the important lesson for me about that is experience shouldn't be something that blocks me from being able to do what I want to do. Problem number 4 is repetition. also going to talk about this a little bit later today. Animation is an incredibly repetitive process. For any of you to do it, it can be, depending on the technique, it can be extremely tedious, monotonous, can be boring, and it's pretty hard to do. What I realized is that as much as I liked animation, maybe what I liked about it most was the problems with animation. I really liked the repetitiveness, and so I set out to do a project that maybe pushed that problem a little bit more. These are some sketches from the project before I shot it. Basically what I was going to do is turn myself into the animation object, and every single frame that I shot, I was going to do a motion. I was going to take a long exposure of that motion. And then I had to repeat that motion and mimic it perfectly every time and then change it slightly in order to create the animation. So these are about like 6 to 8 second exposures, just basically repeating the same motions over and over again for about 3 weeks. Problem number 5. Delegation, and this is a problem I started running into as soon as I started directing. All the pieces I made so far were made entirely by me, except for the music on that last track. And so I felt like I had a lot of creative control over what I was doing. When you start directing commercials or anything like that, you're depending on a huge group of people to do that with you. This is the credit list from the third commercial that I directed. And these are all great artists and producers in their own right helping me to make this project. And it's not always easy to give up that creative control. But I had to in this case. The agency wanted stop motion, which I knew, but we didn't have time to do stop motion. We had to do CG, and I didn't know that process so well. So really needing to work with the team and use a little bit of that creative control. This is the piece that we did.
Take me riding in the car, take me riding in the car, take you riding in the car, take you riding in the car. Click, clang, open up the door, girls. Click, clang, open up the door, boys. Front door, back door, click, clack, take you out of the car. Do, 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 Climb on the front seat, three eyes climb on the back seat. Turn up the keys, step on the starter, take you out of the car. Engine, it goes doo-doo, engine, it goes doo-doo. Front seat, back seat, boys and girls, take you out of the car.
Problem number 6 is style. This is one of the hardest problems for me, I think, in the past. And I always heard my teacher in my ear say, "You got to find your style," and it felt like something important. If I wanted to put myself out in the market as a director, that someone says, "I need this, I want that style, I go for this person." But like we can see in some of the work here, while it's all motion, there's a lot of different styles going on, and I didn't know what my style was. Maybe until I got to this project for Google, where I had to design 8 different concepts for the 8 different features of Google Browser. And I love this idea that maybe it could be about visual perspective and seeing the internet from a different perspective, and so it involves in-camera illusions. I liked the process so much that I thought this has got to be my style. It came so easy to me, and I really enjoyed making it. So I started applying that style to every single project that came to me, and I started using the pitches, basically, because they were like, we don't need a illusion perspective thing going on. And that was pretty discouraging. So I found my style, but I then sort of regrouped with myself, and I found this quote from a writer named David Means who said, "Style is a maneuver around what you can't do." And it's kind of a weird statement, but it helped me understand that sometimes the thing that comes to your mind easiest can work like a crutch. Something that can come to you all the time, but it's not necessarily right. And my brain was just wanting to go for the easiest route rather than trying to find the correct solution. And this next project that came to me was not my style at all. It was digital, it was all typography, there was no sculptural things, anything like that. Had to figure out how to take my sensibility and apply it to something that I didn't normally do. And so this is the piece that I did. So this is the real problem, I think, that comes up a lot. If there's a big overarching problem, this is the problem. And there's no excuse for non-creative work. We're all really creative people. We should be able to figure it out. But if I'm going to be honest with you and be realistic, not every project is like the projects I'm showing. These are like some of my favorites, and they're not all like that. So I'm just going to show this next piece, and we'll talk a little bit about it.
I say the same thing twice, I'm awkward when I speak. Ain't got the perfect smile, I'm trying to head to my street. Trying to be a superstar like everybody else. Being myself is something I do well. Express yourself. Express yourself.
No thought. So this is what a lot of us call happy people getting happier. So that just made me have something flat. very flat. There isn't any change in emotion. It doesn't bring you anywhere. Like the movie starts somewhere and gets somewhere else, just like that. And definitely keeping that in mind, knowing that sometimes I think we can look at that problem and I look back at the project and I thought, what did I do that I did like in that project? And it doesn't show in the piece, but one of the hardest things about that project was the client, like working with this client, just trying to get the project done. And when I look back at it, there was actually a lot of creative thinking that just went into the production itself, getting it done. And while it doesn't show in the piece, it is good to that you made the thing, look back at it and try and figure out what did I achieve. And I think that's actually an important problem to get over. Not every piece is going to be the best, and just try and make everything the best. Last problem, number 8 is ambition, and really it should be called ambition and hubris. What I found over time is that it feels to me like every project needs to be harder than the one before it in order for me to grow as a director. It also feels like if it starts to level out, if it starts to plateau, not only am I not growing, but I'm just going to fall off, and then I should do something else. So it feels like every project needs to keep growing. The problem with that is if every project keeps getting harder and harder, you start to make things impossible. And we have a phrase in the studio that failure is not an option, and we don't say it as a joke, it's true. Some things come really close to failing. And so this next project I want to show started off with some big problems, and it was getting really hard already, but it started off with some problems. This is the test that we did for it, and also to describe what the problems were. As much as I like the idea of paralleling the interaction between magnets with the interaction between people, I just was so into it. The problem is we're supposed to be communicating about the speed of the browser, and in my head, magnets are fast. They don't look that fast though. There's something really fast going on there, but you can't see it. It wasn't communicating. We were definitely getting the interaction part, not the speed part. So yeah. We scrapped that and tried a different one. Okay, maybe we're going to have speakers, because sound is fast. Speakers will shatter the line glass. And we tested it and it looked cool, but the line glass actually takes a really long time to shatter. So not fast. Again, we kept on pushing it and trying to get these things to go faster and faster that we ended up, we had all sorts of production problems, had all sorts of different ideas, and eventually we were able to boil it down to 3 that would actually communicate properly. So this is what they look like. So, the main advice, don't run away from problems. There's going to be tons of problems in what you're doing. Just recognize that they're going to happen and that maybe those problems can actually be a catalyst for the